devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lapierre coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lapierre, back to Lapierre. Oh!
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Stanley pour les Canadiens, le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs!
And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup.
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. Lapierre.tb. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
I don't remember when was the last time I was more excited to host a Montreal Canadiens postgame show. The Montreal Canadiens came back after 4 games on the road, in which they lost the first 3. They went into Florida on Sunday afternoon playing their 4th game in 5.5 days, and they beat the Florida Panthers for the 2nd time in 3 weeks and for the 3rd time in a span of about 3 months. Couple of days later, they're back in Montreal tonight to host the Florida Panthers, with Florida having revenge on their minds. And Florida looked like this game was theirs to be had. And with less than 10 seconds to go, they're up by a score of 2-1. But guess who ties it up? Nick Suzuki on an assist by guess who? You guessed it, Lane Hutson. The game goes to overtime. Dvorak, Suzuki, Hutson on the ice. Dvorak wins his draw. Lane Hutson grabs possession. Dvorak goes to the bench. Caulfield comes on. Caulfield makes a move, goes to the outside, ends up giving the pass to Nick Suzuki, who circles the net and is able to score the game-winning goal as he tucks it in. The Bell Center was rocking. What a huge win by the Montreal Canadiens. Canadiens win by a score of 3-2 in overtime. What a huge, huge win. And the Montreal Canadiens hold on to the 2nd wild card spot in the Eastern Conference. The Sick Podcast is brought to you in part by Playground, giving away over $135,000 in cash prizes this month at their cash game poker table, 7 days a week and 5 nights a week. Go and play anytime from 9:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. or enjoy the late night games from 9:30 p.m. to 2 a.m. for a chance to win. Payouts every 30 minutes. Get in on the action at Playground. Visit playground.ca for details. And also brought to you in part by Energy Transportation Group, a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America, driven to be different. As usual, on Tuesday nights, we usually have 2 gentlemen join me. One is former Montreal Canadian, Maxim Lapierre. Max, what a win. What a win, Max.
Wow. What a game. Tony, what a game. That's hockey right there. Phenomenal. Yeah. Exciting. They're showing so much character. This is a young group, guys. This is not a veteran group. This is a young group of players. 15 years of this. We're going to have 15 years of good hockey like that.
I hope you're right, Max. I hope you're right.
No. You don't hope. I'm right.
And it's time for the McGuire Report.
The McGuire Report. Presented by Vago Italian.
Yeah, presented by Vago, open 23 years, longevity. Not many restaurants open that long when food service, it all comes together, and, pricing as well. Private dining rooms for any occasion, birthdays, engagement, corporate meetings, plenty of free parking after 6, open Monday to Saturday evenings and lunch Tuesday to Friday. Fresh quality ingredients, old world Italian classics, and new Italian. Go see Tommaso, the most popular man in Westmount, in the front of the restaurant, and his partner, Angelo, of course, in the kitchen. Tommaso came over to me a couple of weeks ago when I was there, and he said, Tony, you know what? Some great clients have walked in after hearing about Restaurant Vago on the Sick Podcast. I said, Tommaso, I'm so happy to hear that. And I said, all we want to do is try and get them in once if they haven't heard of Vago before, because once they get there once, I know they're going to come back, and they keep coming back. And Pierre, so do the Montreal Canadiens. They keep coming back.
Tony, what a pleasure to be with you and Max tonight. And what Max just said, I agree with. 15 years of great hockey's coming to this town. A lot of it's because of character. A lot of it's because of speed. A lot of it's because of skill. But there's one other thing that matters: resilience. This team is resilient beyond belief. They could have mailed it in on Sunday in Florida. They didn't. Florida tried to beat them up. Montreal said, not today. It was an afternoon game. They try to beat them up again tonight. Not tonight. Not going to happen. Were there some special guys? Suzuki was special. Was Lane Hutson any good, Tony? He was pretty darn good. And Tony, Sam Montembeault was pretty darn good too. Those 2 goals that Florida scored, they were bad luck goals. They were deflections by Canadian players. So let's be fair here. The Canadians had some amazing heroic efforts.
I'm happy you said that, Pierre, because I can't believe, with one eye on social media, one eye on the game, I was checking every now and then, especially during the commercial breaks, of course, and I couldn't believe Montembeault was getting killed by some, saying that he was having a bad game. He gave up some bad goals. His team scored both of them on him. And you know what? He came up real big when Florida had big power plays late in the game. They had some big chances in close, and he made that save that you want your goalie to make when the game is on the line, when you're down by a goal and you say, you know what, if the other team takes a 2-goal lead, this game is over. He shut the door. Montembeault came up very big tonight, but I want to go to Lane Hutson if I can, because for me, look, Hutson and Suzuki are obviously the story. I've said this before, but I'm not the only one anymore. I think Lane Hutson and Nick Suzuki, with all due respect, all the good players the Montreal Canadiens have, I believe those are the 2 best players on the Montreal Canadiens. I've been calling Lane Hutson a superstar for the last 2 months. I had a buddy of mine, Paul, who took exception today, by the way, Pierre. He sent me a text message and he said, that's a homer statement you made. And I said, why is it a homer statement? He said, because he's a star player. Superstars usually propel their team over the top and they end up winning Stanley Cups. Well, they're not in the playoffs yet, so let's give him a chance to see if he's going to win a cup. I stand by what I said a couple of months ago to Craig Button. I'm going to say it again. Lane Hutson is a superstar, and I don't care who agrees with me, and I don't care who doesn't agree with me. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
I don't agree, Tony.
Well,
I think he's a franchise player. I told you today.
There you go.
And a lot of people gave me trouble for that one as well this year. I think he's a franchise player. Everybody plays better when he's on the ice.
Guys, I want you to think of the rich history of the Montreal Canadiens, and all the great defensemen that have played for this historic franchise over the years and over the last century. Lane Hutson broke another record tonight, guys. He entered the Montreal Canadiens history books as the rookie defenseman with the most assists in his rookie season, surpassing the great Chris Chelios.
It's pretty mind-boggling. But, Tony, I would like our brain room, and that's mostly Sammy and Anello, to go back and listen to the tapes of what I told you in the summer about Lane Hutson before he even came to Montreal to play. There are a lot of people out there that are fraudulent, Tony, that file scouting reports on X and all these internet places, and they never saw the kid play. They were judging everything by his size and what they had heard secondhand. This kid is a superstar player, and Max Lapierre's statement about him being a franchise player is spot on, 100% right. And I'll tell you one other thing, and this will drive people nuts because most of them never saw Doug Harvey play. Doug Harvey took the temperature of a game and decided when to speed it up and when to slow it down. He played in a rocking chair. We haven't had a defenseman in Montreal like Lane Hutson since Doug Harvey. Suck on that.
I love it, Pierre. And you know what? PK Subban was the most dynamic defenseman that I've had a chance to cover since I've been in the media. Montreal Canadiens defenseman since 2002, right? I think we would agree. The most dynamic defenseman the Canadiens have had, the most enjoyable to watch for me. Guess what? PK Subban had a very good NHL career that lasted over 12 years. He won a Norris Trophy. His best offensive season, 60 points. Lane Hutson at ages 20 and turned 21 6 weeks ago, 62 points. In his rookie season, he has outproduced PK Subban in his career, who the most he ever had was a 60-point season. I'm telling you, I'm on the verge of telling my wife tonight I want a divorce because I want to marry Lane Hutson. I want to marry Lane Hutson.
Okay.
You're not even in the top 10, Tony. You have absolutely no chance.
Hey, Tony, you know what? I'd like to ask Max this question because he was a forechecker. Max, think about trying to have to forecheck Lane Hutson, shift in and shift out, game in and game out in a playoff series. Not easy to do, is it, Max?
No, it isn't. And it reminds me of a story with Nick Lidstrom. I think I told you guys before, but Carbo gave me shit between periods because he's saying you got to be physical on Lidstrom. I'm like, I can't catch him. Like, it's like he knows I'm coming like on him, and I'm gonna hit him like 60 minutes before. Like he sees everything, and he's so smart. Yeah, and you know what, guys? Tonight, before he made all those nice plays, he was playing a phenomenal game defensively. Like he was stick on stick. He deflected a lot of pucks. He's back checking well. He's physical. He's a heck of it. I can't believe some people are making fun of him. You know, like you read on Twitter and all these things. People are making fun of him with his head fakes and all that. He's one of the best players in the league, guys.
You know what's amazing, Tony and Max? I will say this too. Go watch the tape in the first period. His one-on-one battle with AJ Greer. Go look at the tail of tape and the size. AJ Greer only gets a skate on that. He couldn't get a stick on it, to Max's point, because the kid had his stick tied up. I mean, stop. People have to stop the nonsense. You're watching greatness before your eyes. You're watching a superstar every single night. How many guys would you pay $300 a game to go watch play? You'd pay that to go watch this guy play. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, I'm 52 years old, Pierre. I bought one hockey jersey, or acquired one hockey jersey, I think, in the last 20 years of my life. It was Guy Lafleur. It was 3 or 4 months before, unfortunately, he left us. And he was my childhood idol growing up. And for me, it was important to have his jersey one more time. I'm on the verge of going to buy Lane Hutson's jersey. Like, I don't remember when was the last time I bought a hockey jersey. I mean, it's just not my style, right? But no, I have so much respect for the young man, because for me, his story is one that must inspire a lot of people. Once again, 5'9", 159 pounds, breaking into the National Hockey League. There's reports that at the Combine, half the teams didn't want to talk to him because they said, we're never going to draft this guy. We're not interested at all. And you know what? He ends up slipping to the second round, 62nd overall. If we take a look at that 2022 draft class right now, we do it all over again, with all due respect to Uri Slavkovsky, and to Logan Cooley, and to Shane Wright, and the other good players that were from that draft year, Lane Hutson is probably going number 1 overall. I mean, let's be honest. How can he not? He's picked up 62 points as a 21-year-old rookie. It's unbelievable. But guys, you know what? Seeing as we're talking about stars and superstars, we could start talking about Nick Suzuki right now. When was the last time, any center in the National Hockey League got the better of Sasha Barkov, who, by the way, was very good on Sunday afternoon, but got the better of him every single game for 4 straight games? And you know what? I don't know if there's an answer to this, or if there is an answer, but when was the last time, guys, a team finished 5th last the year prior, and 1 year later they went 4-0 against the defending Stanley Cup champions? It's unbelievable. Style makes fights, and the Montreal Canadiens play pretty good hockey versus the Florida Panthers. And yes, they're without Kachuk, and yes, they're without Ekblad, but you know what? Canadiens played a really good game.
Paul Maurice said something very interesting before the game. He said that, like, they asked him what make the Habs, what's their strength, right? He said they can adjust to any game. Like, every line is different. They have every type of player. They can be physical. They can be fast. They're creative. They're a good young group with energy. And I think he's right. Like, everybody brings a little something different. Whatever it's Caulfield, Slavkovsky, Suzuki, Hutson, everybody, Goulet, everybody brings something. And I think they're going to be really, really hard to beat in the future.
Pierre, I know we're going to take questions later, and obviously I have a feeling we're going to take a lot of them on Lane Hutson, but why don't we just say what we have to say one more time here and just wrap it up? We'll get back to him a little bit later. Let's bring up, Pierre, one of the things that I thought was amazing was that in the past couple of weeks here, Mike Matheson is no longer being the defenseman who's logging the most minutes, right? Even though he's still logging a lot of them, Lane Hutson has taken over, and now he is the guy who's logging the most minutes on defense for the Montreal Canadiens. He did tonight again with 26 minutes and 12 seconds to Matheson's 25:39. Yesterday was a day off, Pierre. TVA Sports was in Brassard, and they had a camera there. One player showed up to the rink, Pierre. One, on a day off. This guy, you can't get him off the ice, Pierre. Shades of McKinnon and Crosby. Like, he has that mentality.
I've seen the movie. I tried to warn you. I saw it at BU. All these experts, none of them were there. I'm just telling you. Ask Jay Pandolfo, the coach. He had Macklin Celebrini and Lane Hutson on the same team. They're both addicts. You talked about Crosby and McKinnon. They push each other all the time in the summer. Max knows about that. These famous training regimes where they run hills or run sand dunes. That's what this guy is. This guy got pushed by Macklin Celebrini, and he pushed himself. And he's a superstar player. And I'm gonna steal from Max, and I'll always give him credit. Lane Hutson's a franchise player. He's a franchise player.
Let's bring up a couple of graphics on Lane Hutson. Do we have them? There we go. First rookie defenseman in NHL history with 60 points in a season since Nicholas Lidstrom. And he passed 60, by the way, because tonight with his 3 assists, he actually hit 62. And once again, he's become the number 1 in Montreal Canadiens history for defensemen with the most assists in his rookie season, surpassing Chris Chelios. There's another graphic, I think. Lane Hutson has 21 points in 18 games since the Four Nations break. And there's another stat that I saw, by the way, guys. Since January 1st, there's only one defenseman in the National Hockey League that has more points than Lane Hutson, and that's Cale Makar.
Yeah, but let's not forget one thing here, Tony. Like, he wasn't on the first power play at the beginning of the season, and he's not playing on a packed team right now. Like, he's not playing on the top 5 teams in the NHL. Like, let's be honest, the second, third, and fourth line, they're doing their jobs and they're working hard, but we don't have a stacked team right now. Imagine when everyone is here. Wow.
They do have a good power play, though, right? I mean, let's be honest, Pierre, they do have a good power play.
They do, since they put Lane Hutson on the point to quarterback it. They didn't at the beginning of the year, and they didn't when they didn't have Patrick Laine. So give them some credit. Laine and Hudson go on there. Here's one other thing. You just talked about the Four Nations, and Max said we're not a stacked team. I'll tell you right now, I'll bet you $1,000 he will be on the Olympic team when they go to Milan next year for Team USA. Bet you $1,000 right now.
I bet you're right. I'll also make a bet. Nick Suzuki will be on Team Canada. That's a tougher one. It's a tougher one because Connor Bedard, Macklin Celebrini, he'll be competing with a lot of good players that weren't there. Scheifele wasn't there. Pierre, how could you leave this guy off? He was 62% in the circle tonight. He won 13 of 21 draws. And I said this, ever since Mark Bureau officially became a consultant with the Montreal Canadiens, they've moved at the top 10 in the league for face-off play, Pierre. And if Nick Suzuki, I mentioned that 60% number last show, and you said that's a huge number, and it is. He had 62% tonight. If he can get 57, 58%, he's going to be a tough player to keep off of Team Canada.
Well, if you're doing that, and Max Lapierre knows this, you're in Patrice Bergeron category for face-offs, because that's about where he was in his career. And I'll tell you one other thing. Mark Bureau was an excellent face-off guy, not a little bit good. He was really good. And there are only 2 guys in the league that I know of right now that are influencing face-off play the way Mark Bureau is. And one of them is obviously Mark. The other one is Michael Pekka with the New York Rangers. Those are the only 2 guys. So you got to give credit where credit's due. They brought in a guy to help out, and it's made a difference.
There's some games that are finals. Good news for the Canadiens. The Buffalo Sabres do them a favor. They beat the Ottawa Senators in Ottawa by a score of 5-2. The Tampa Bay Lightning do the Montreal Canadiens a favor. They beat the New York Islanders by a score of 4-1. Unfortunately, Nashville is not able to do Montreal a favor because Columbus beat them by a score of 8-4 on a hat trick by Kirill Marchenko. Detroit has just taken a 1-0 lead on St. Louis. There's 6 minutes left in period number 3. That's a huge game for them. The Boston Bruins lose at home versus the Washington Capitals by a score of 4-3. The Canadiens were in a wild card spot going into tonight's action. The Montreal Canadiens are in a wild card spot, obviously, after their win versus Florida. And now there's only 8 games remaining for the Montreal Canadiens in the regular season. 8 games, 5 will be at home, 3 will be on the road. 5 of them will be versus teams that are below the Canadiens in the standings. And the Canadiens' next opponent, Pierre McGuire, will be the Boston Bruins on Thursday night here in Montreal.
Yeah, and that's going to be a huge game, obviously. I mean, everybody knows that. Every game's gigantic. Marty St. Louis talked about it, especially when you look at that road trip. If they don't pull that thing out of a swamp on Saturday or Sunday, in Florida, I don't think we're having this joyous game right now to talk about. I don't think we are.
Max, how excited are Montreal Canadiens fans with the Canadiens winning tonight, 3,500 plus, watching on YouTube alone? If we add Facebook and Twitter, I would imagine that we're going to be over 5,000. Isn't that good news? Guys, wow, what a high, what a win. A buddy of mine called me today and he said, Tony, if the Canadiens over 7,000, Sammy tells me, isn't that a nice number? Buddy calls me today and he says to me, Tony, first game back from a 4-game road trip that had 4 games in 5.5 days, like you so put it. Going up against the defending Stanley Cup champions that the Canadiens have beat 3 times, who obviously really want to win this game because it's a big game for Florida too. And he says to me, I know there's going to be 8 games left after tonight's game, but I have a feel, you know what? If the Canadiens can win this game, he says, I think they're going to make the playoffs. And I said to a buddy of mine, I said, you know what? I think you're right. If the Canadiens can win this game. Now, it's not over. And by the way, Columbus looks like a team on a mission too, guys. Columbus. Pierre, when all is said and done, in your opinion, if I had to tell you one other team other than the Montreal Canadiens it'll come down to, will you go with Columbus or the New York Rangers?
Columbus.
Max?
I'm scared of Columbus. Yeah, they have a good team. Good young group, veteran players coming back with Monahan, and we all know the story. There's something bigger than hockey. Like in this dressing room, they're fighting for something really like much bigger than hockey.
One other thing I want to add to what Max said, I truly believe if Columbus makes the playoffs, Zach Werenski will win the Norris Trophy this year.
That's a good call.
Is that $1,000 as well? On this one?
That one I'm not as sure of.
I'll tell you this, and I told this to Eric Engels last night, guys. I believe there's over 200 members of the media that vote, and of course they vote for a top 5 in all categories. Lane Hutson will get some Norris votes. Now, please don't get me wrong, folks. Okay, Cale Makar, I believe, is going to win it, and I agree with Pierre that if Columbus makes the playoffs, that Werenski will get votes. But think about this, guys. Who's going to get votes? Cale Makar is going to get votes. Werenski is going to get votes. Quinn Hughes is going to get votes. Victor Hedman's going to get votes. Thomas Harley is going to get votes. Slavin's going to get votes. Josh Morrissey will probably get votes. Right? There's 200 writers that are voting. Right? Is it safe to say that a couple will probably give him a top 5 vote? Have him in at number 5? He's top 5 in all statistical categories for defensemen. Yeah. Right?
I'm more concerned about the Rookie of the Year. I'll tell you right now, if he doesn't win Rookie of the Year, there should be an investigation. Everybody's vote should have to go public. You should have to show your vote.
Pierre, everyone has an opinion on this, and I'm glad you spoke up tonight because, Wolf is obviously getting a lot of accolades in Calgary, and rightfully so. People are talking about Macklin Celebrini. People are talking about Michkov, who is just a couple of points behind Lane Hutson. But if you can, the way only you can put it, tell the hockey world why Lane Hutson should win the Calder Trophy this year.
If Lane Hutson wasn't on the Montreal Canadiens right now, they would not even be playing meaningful games. If the Montreal Canadiens make the playoffs, and there's a very good chance they will, they would have no chance to make the playoffs if Lane Hutson wasn't playing there. 0.
He's a defenseman. He's got more, forget about everything. He's got more points than everybody else. He's dominant. He plays minutes. I don't even think there should be a discussion.
You know what? I think Wolf has been great. I don't like comparing a goalie who's played 45 games to a player who's played 74. I just don't. You know what I mean? I'll say this. I'll make my own case for Lane Hutson. I started off the show by saying that in the amazing history of the Montreal Canadiens, Lane Hutson has broken a record. He has more assists than any other defenseman in Montreal Canadiens history. He has picked up more assists in an NHL season, beating a mark that previously was held by, Larry Murphy's got the record, but he just surpassed Nicholas Lidstrom, who did it back in the 90s. I believe he will beat Larry Murphy's record of 60 assists in a season. He's doing that as a second-round pick, 62nd overall, 5'9", 160-pound defenseman who wasn't on the power play for the first month and a half of the season, and at the most important time of the season is playing right D on a team that finished 5th last a year ago. I mean, I don't know what else you can say. Hey, Max? What else can you say?
I you know what? I like Goulet with him right now, but I cannot wait to see him. Like, I like the way he's playing on the right side, but I can't wait to see him on the left side with let's say another type of defenseman than Goulet. I don't want to see them together. I think Goulet is a very good defenseman. I want to see, McGuire's got his Taze, there's that duo, and they're doing phenomenal together. But I think Lane Hutson with a really good righty is going to be at another level. That's my opinion.
Oh, we agree 100%. I can tell you right now, Jeff Bukaboom played with Brian Leach and made Brian Leach a much better player. I totally agree with that. And plus, you move Goulet away from him, you make your defense deeper. Your matchup component is gigantic. So, no, I agree with Max on that as well. And the biggest thing is I just don't know how injured David Reinbacher is, but he's the player that's probably internally going to trend that way. He's going to probably trend in the way of, you know what, that's the perfect component to play with Lane Hutson. But we'll see. We'll see how it plays out.
Guys, if we can, why don't we do this? Let's bring up the starting lineup for the Canadiens, bring up the starting lineup for the Florida Panthers as well. Suzuki, Slavkovsky on his right, Caulfield on his left, Newhook center, Liney, and Emil Heineman at left wing. Dvorak with Gallagher on his right, Anderson on his left, Evans with Armia on his right, and Pizzetta on his left. Matheson with Carrier, Goulet with Hutson playing right D, Struble with Savard, and goal Samuel Montembeault. And once again, guys, out of the lineup for the Montreal Canadiens, Arbor Xhekaj and Joshua Roy. Pierre, Marty St. Louis says, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And he came back with the same lineup as last game. And you know what? I will say this, and I'm wrong every now and then, actually probably more wrong than I am right. But I said, you know what? I buy that concept. I'm not changing it. So many people wanted Arbor Xhekaj in the lineup so that he can get to Mikkola or fight Mikkola or try and do this or try and do that. And I said, what's more important here? Trying to get to Mikkola or winning the hockey game? Not to say they wouldn't have won the hockey game with Arbor Xhekaj, but right now things are going well in defense. And how do you take Jaden Struble out of the lineup right now? How do you take him out?
You don't. You can't. You don't. Look at Arbor's going to get his chance. Players have to go through trial and tribulation. He's going to get his chance. He made a bad read, stepped up at the wrong time in a big game in Carolina, and he's been stapled to the bench or into street clothes ever since then. And so the coach had enough of those types of mistakes. They can't afford glaring mistakes right now. They cannot.
Max, I hate to go in this direction coming off a Montreal Canadiens win and talking about Arbor Xhekaj when he didn't even play. But since we're on this conversation, one of the things you said about 5 minutes ago was, I think Lane Hutson's going to be so much better if he can get a good right pairing defense, or like a right defenseman that can complement his game. Well, the Canadiens are stacked at left D with Mike Matheson, Lane Hutson, Caden Goulet, Jaden Struble, Arbor Xhekaj. On the right, it's thinner. David Savard, Alex Carrier, Ryan Backer, and Logan Mailloux on the farm. As you look into your crystal ball, Max, what do you think about Arbor Xhekaj going forward to Montreal Canadiens, knowing that he's a healthy scratch in the last couple of games, which were the most important games of the season for the Montreal Canadiens, and the game before that, he played 3.5 minutes, and the 2 games before that, he played about 10 minutes each.
If you look at this group, and if you look at every group that won the Stanley Cup, there's always that goal scorer, that good defenseman, the good goalie, the good centerman, the good captain, and there's also the enforcer. There's always the tough guy that's there to protect this group of players. They have fun together. You can see he's an important piece in the core group. He's a good teammate. He's there. There's a difference when he's in the lineup. I understand what Pierre said. Obviously, he makes some mistakes, and right now it's not time to make them. But I want the Canadian to work with him. I don't want them to quit on him. He's 24 years old. Like, for me, give him like 2 years. Keep working with him. Keep working on his puck handling, his skating. He's a good skater. He's got a good shot. He's tough. He hits hard. Just get him under control. He's a good defenseman. We don't want this guy to go to Boston or Philadelphia or Vegas and teams that play a physical game, or Florida, and then we're gonna say, I can't believe we had him. I'll mention one guy, and it took a lot of time for him to become a really solid defenseman in the NHL. It's been a long time, but François Beauchemin, you remember this guy? He was in Montreal. Yeah. He wasn't the same type of defenseman, but he was playing this with the same grit. and we just let him go. Like, just sometimes it's important. We have the luxury to take our time with him. Just let's take our time.
I'll mention a defenseman in just a second, but Pierre, just for the benefit of our listeners and viewers, Jordan Kyrou has scored with 30 seconds left in period number 3. The St. Louis Blues have tied up the game versus the Detroit Red Wings. So isn't that good news? If obviously St. Louis can win this game in overtime, then Detroit will only pick up 1 point instead of picking up 2 points. Pierre, when the Montreal Canadiens won the Stanley Cup in 1993, they had a defenseman, as you know, by the name of Lyle Odeline. I think some Canadiens fans are like, if Odeline can play on a cup winner, maybe Jack-Eye can too.
He can, but Lyle Odeline had to do his chores, and that's to Max's point. It wasn't like he came in as a ready-made NHL player when he left Moose Jaw. You know, I watched him play out there. I coached against the guy. I mean, he had to go do some time in the American Hockey League. It wasn't like he just got anointed as a top 6 guy with the Montreal Canadiens. There's nothing wrong with development. Ask Max. He had to go through it as well. You know, not every player, Sidney Crosby or Peter Forsberg or Joe Sakic. It takes time to get to this. It's a profession where you got to pay your dues. There's a toll that has to be paid. That being said, I agree that Jack-Eye is the nuclear deterrent you have to have if you're going to play in a freaking nasty series, because he's got to be there from time to time. All that being said, you can't live with his mistakes right now. You're almost having to pitch a perfect game every night if you're going to win. And they don't have the wiggle room right now to live with his mistakes. They just don't.
Let's take a look at Florida's lineup. Barkov with Verhaeghe on his left and Reinhart on his right. Bennett with Marchand on his left and Samoskevich on his right. Lundell with Westerreinen on his left and Boqvist on his right. Sturm with Greer on his left and Rodriguez on his right. Sturm left with a really, really bad injury, guys. It looked like it was a concussion as he and A.J. Greer collided, and he didn't see him coming. Forsling and Jones on defense. Mikola Schmidt, Bjorn Foot, and Balinskis, and Vitek Vanacek was in goal. You know, at one point, I really like Seth Jones tonight for the Florida Panthers. Then I take a look for him. He finishes -2 in this hockey game, but he logged some big minutes as well, Pierre. 27 minutes and 28 seconds for Florida. And with Aaron Begblad, of course, suspended for the rest of the regular season, that was a key pickup for Florida at the time.
It was a really good pickup. It shows you Billy Zito knew him from Columbus because he was the assistant GM when Jones was there, when they acquired him from Nashville. But here's the thing. Nobody talks about this. You look at Brandon Montour's playing in Seattle, and you look at Oliver Ekman-Larsson, he's playing in Toronto, and now Aaron Ekblad is suspended. That's 3 guys from their top 6 that aren't playing there. That's not nearly the same defense as a year ago. Not nearly the same defense. And that's why they needed to go out and get Seth Jones. Now, will he make a difference? He will. He will. But if you're going to get into a street fight kind of a series, and Florida likes to do that, I don't know if they have enough ammunition on the back end. I don't think they do to go the long haul this year. I just don't think they do.
And I think Tampa is a problem this year.
I agree with Max. That's the problem.
Yeah, the problem is every time Nikita Kucherov's on the ice, he picks up a point. My God, is he on a mission or what?
He's on a mission. He's on a mission. You know, they did a couple things really smart there. They brought Yanni Gourde back. They brought in, I think, one of the best leaders we've had in the National Hockey League. And I'm not trying to make Montreal Canadiens fans mad. Ryan McDonough is an amazing. Go watch the 1,000 game celebration on Saturday when they played the Islanders and see what that was like about Ryan McDonough and how revered he is and respected around the National Hockey League. One of the dumbest trades ever perpetrated on the Montreal Canadiens is when they traded Ryan McDonough. It was moronic, beyond belief, silly. Could you imagine the Canadiens, how good they might have been if they had Subban on the right and McDonough on the left? Unbelievable that people actually got away with making that trade.
With Sergachev?
Well, I don't even want to go there. All I'll say is this. When that deal was made with Tampa, you'll like this, Max. I sent a text to a friend of mine that works in the professional scouting department of Tampa. I said, if you did this on the street, you'd be going to jail. It's called larceny.
Yeah.
You're right. Well, I had fun with Gomer, though.
Hey, he's coaching. Gomer's coaching in the BCHL, and he's doing a good job.
You know what, guys? Like, I was in Montreal, obviously, and I heard all the critics and all that, but one of the best teammates you can have in the NHL, Scott Gomez. Great.
His fault. Hey, look, that trade's not his fault.
Yeah,
100%.
That's not his fault.
There was, by the way, we get back to Drouin. There was a big PR machine about Drouin that, he wasn't being treated well or fairly by Cooper, and he wasn't being treated well or fairly by Yzerman, and that he could handle the pressure of Montreal, and that he was going to be great, and he handled pressure all his life and all that stuff. And I went for it too. I said, yeah, you know what? Okay, you got me. He's going to be great in Montreal. I never wanted to give up Sergachev, mind you. But I thought that at the time when he was playing with the Tampa Bay Lightning, remember the playoff series he had for the Lightning? He was amazing, right, in the playoffs? Mm-hmm. And Pierre, how good was Jonathan Drouin when he was at Tampa Bay Lightning on the power play?
He was very good on the power play. And I'm going to tell you one other thing that nobody knows. I happened to be there doing a game for NBC, and I was there in the hallway, and I'm going to tell you right now, Max knows in Tampa, when you walk down the hall, the Tampa Bay Lightning, when you go into the visitors room, they got to walk right by you. So I'm standing there, and I hear Steve Yzerman talking to Jonathan Drouin saying, we're now giving you your opportunity to play with the best players on our team. Don't look back, look ahead. Basically, I'm paraphrasing what he said. And he said, we're going to give you every opportunity to succeed. And Drouin said, thank you. And he just went out on the ice. And they told him that. They made some trades at the trade deadline to get him more room to play.
Do you remember that play at the blue line in the playoffs when he cut in the middle and got hit? I think it changed a lot in his career that day.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right about that.
Well, you remember one of the first things they did when they got him here is they put him at center.
Oh, and I just said, what do you do? I remember going crazy. I'm like, what are they doing? Did they not watch him play?
Well, they tried to get a center and they couldn't, so they thought that if they take Drouin, they convert him and put him at center, that it was going to work out, and unfortunately it didn't work out. Okay, let's go to our scoring here in tonight's hockey game if we can. The Detroit Red Wings, by the way, and the St. Louis Blues, last time I checked, it is still, do we have 2-1 final, St. Louis.
On fire.
The St. Louis Blues win again, all right, in overtime on a goal by Cam Fowler.
What a pickup that was, by the way. Nobody talked about that when he came from Anaheim to St. Louis near the beginning of the year. What an amazing pickup by the Blues.
50th assist of the season by Robert Thomas. And Pierre, you know how much I love that player, right?
Oh, wait a second.
All right, okay.
I've tried about Robert Thomas for a long time.
Yeah, Pierre loves him a lot. Hard not to. All right, okay, guys. Period number 1, 4:43 in. It's Hutson to Gooley, who shot from the point, is deflected by Josh Anderson. Max Lapierre used to like to screen the goalie every now and then. Not too many deflections nicer than that one, eh?
No, what a play, though. Like, first of all, Anderson was at the right spot, but let's realize how fast that happened. First of all, the pass from Hutson and the way Gooley shot that puck, it's so fast. The execution was perfect, and I just think this is what we're going to see more of right now. This is skills. This is pure skills. Like, you don't need 5 seconds to look at the net and find a shooting lane. These guys are just skill players.
All right, okay. Mikkola, out of all players, guys, the guy who slapped the puck with no time left on the clock last game in Florida, who received a $5,000 fine, by the way, by the NHL's Department of Player Safety, at 10:37 into the hockey game. Lundell to Mikkola, who shot deflects off of Jake Evans and beats Samuel Montembeault. Jake Evans, by the way, guys, lost a very key defensive zone faceoff to Lundell right before that, and that one hurts. In period number 2, guys, a power play goal by Samoskevich on an assist by Seth Jones, who takes his shot, and it deflects off of Caden Gooley. So the first 3 goals of the hockey game were deflections from Montreal Canadiens players. 1 for the Canadiens, 2 against the Canadiens. And then in period number 3, I think it's Reinhart, guys. Is it Reinhart that tries to block a shot?
It was off his glove.
Goes off of Reinhart's glove. And it's a shot from Lane Hutson, who picks up a pass from Slavkovsky. And Nick Suzuki is just hanging out there back door. And you know what? The puck falls right on his stick, and all he's got to do is just pull it back and just tuck it into the empty net there. And he scores that goal with about 8.5 seconds left in regulation. I wasn't in the building, obviously, because I was here in my podcast studio. but I could hear the Bell Center from my house, and I live in LaSalle. The game goes to overtime. You know what I'm proud of? I believe strongly that you got to put your two best face-off guys on the ice in overtime. I don't know if you guys remember this, but Jerry from Longueuil called probably, I don't know, was it, maybe it was when they lost that game in Seattle. And he didn't like the fact that Dvorak was on the ice and said, I don't understand, why don't they just put Suzuki, Caulfield, and Lane Hutson? And I said, Jerry, because you need to put your best face-off guys or your two best face-off guys on the ice in overtime. And if you win the draw, then Dvorak will go to the bench and Caulfield will come on. Marty St. Louis went with that tonight. They won the face-off. Dvorak won the face-off. And Suzuki scored in overtime again. I think he's got 5 overtime winners, guys. And every time he scores in overtime this year, Dvorak wins the face-off. All the time.
Yeah, it's important. There's no question it's important. Just to go to the Nick Suzuki first goal, the tying goal.
Yeah.
When I saw that happen, it took me back to 2009 World Junior in Ottawa. And it's a great keep-in by Ryan Ellis. It's an amazing backhand cross-crease feed from John Tavares. And it's Jordan Eberle putting it off a Russian defenseman's glove into the net. The play is almost similar. It's just on the other side of the ice. It's unbelievable how similar they are.
A couple of minutes before that goal, was it Samoskevich that I think got robbed by Montembeau?
It was Smacky Samoskevich, kid that played at the University of Michigan. He played for the same junior program as Max Pacioretty, Jonathan Quick, and Cam Atkinson. He played at a place called Mid-Fairfield in Connecticut, but that's where he grew up playing before he went to Shattuck St. Mary's and then to the University of Michigan.
Mid-Fairfield in Connecticut, best 13-year-old team in North America. Probably
Sam Miskevish and my son were line mates. That's the only reason I know that.
Oh, wow. Isn't that amazing? Hey, Pierre, you know anything about that Mid-Fairfield team because they won the Quebec Pee Wee tournament?
I know a lot about it. Mike Richter's family's been a big part of that for a long time. Jonathan Quick played there. Cam Atkinson played there. Max played there.
Yeah.
Sam Miskevish played there. A lot of really good players that have played there over time.
Guess who played on that team at the Quebec Pee Wee hockey tournament, that Mid-Fairfield team, that Pee Wee team that won the tournament? Ryan Graves' son plays on that team.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, Ryan Graves' son. All right, okay. Once again, big night. The Montreal Canadiens win, and we're going to get to your questions. We're going to get to your questions. You have an opportunity to ask Pierre. You have an opportunity to ask Max. Are the Montreal Canadiens going to make the playoffs? If you want to put $1, go all the way with Betway and get a free bet up to $200. If your first bet loses, scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the details section to create an account. Redeem your welcome offer. Offer is only available for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. Offers not available in Ontario. Must be 18 years of age and older. And please play responsibly. Also, a shout out to Bittt Tibi. They launched their new Ultra Lager, refreshing, thirst-quenching beer, perfect for nice spring days with only 90 calories, 2 grams of carbs, 4% ABV per can, available in a pack of 6 and 12 in grocery stores all around the province of Quebec. Ultra light, ultra refreshing. If you're just joining us now, this is a huge night for the Montreal Canadiens. Why? Because the Montreal Canadiens pick up 2 points tonight. Meanwhile, the Detroit Red Wings lost in overtime, so they only picked up 1 point in this hockey game. The Boston Bruins lost in regulation. They pick up no points. The Ottawa Senators lost in regulation. They pick up no points. The New York Islanders lost in regulation. They pick up no points. Columbus, on the other hand, though, they exploded tonight. They beat Nashville by a score of 8-4. So Columbus 2 points, Montreal 2 points, Detroit 1 point. Everyone else loses. The Rangers were not in action tonight. We will get to your phone calls at 1-888-585-SICK, 1-888-585-7425. We can hear the excitement, and you haven't even called in yet. Let's bring up some questions. Sammy and Yellow at Master Control, or even bring up some phone calls. Why not? Go for it. Nico Bellic, who sent over $10. Thank you for that. What would be Pierre and Max's prediction for Montreal versus Washington or Montreal versus Toronto should they meet in the first round? Pierre?
Go ahead, Maxie.
It's a tough one because I think Washington is a really good team. They've had a great season, but it reminds me too much of the 2010 Halak playoff. Like Habs coming in, nobody thinks we can beat them, but it all depends on what. There's so many players that arrived in Washington and they needed a career season just to save their own careers. I'm thinking about Dubois, Manjapane, all these guys. Like who's the defenseman? I got a blank here. The guy that just signed. He came. He was in Ottawa. What's his name?
Chikrin.
Yeah, Chikrin is having like a career season. I don't know if they can keep playing that way in the playoffs, but there's something special there as well with Ovechkin, all the Gretzky record and all that. So I would have to go with Washington, but in 7.
I think it'd be a tough matchup with Toronto, Tony. Too much firepower, and the left wing side of Toronto would overwhelm, I think, the Canadiens' right side on defense, to what Max was talking about before. If you look at Matthew Nyes, you look at Bobby McMahon, you look at the size factor of the left wing. Now they've added Scotty Lawton. He's not playing center. He's playing on the left side. And Pontus Holmberg be a huge matchup problem for the Canadiens on the right side. That's the only reason why I think Toronto would have a bit of an edge. But I think Canadiens would go into both as underdogs. But based on what's going on with the crowd, who knows? It's to Max's point about 2010. I did every game in that series. Montreal never should have won, but they did. They did.
Yeah, that's what happens when you have Max Lapierre on your team. Pure goal scorer.
They saw.
You know what? I said this before. I'm going to say it again. The best thing about the Toronto is the Highway 401 back to Montreal. All right, okay. Back to the phone lines we go. Where are we going? Give me Montreal. They got Lane Hutson. Give me Montreal. I heard this song and dance about Toronto before. I'm not impressed. It's changed now. I get it. It's no longer a country club, and they got the chief now, who's the coach there, and this is probably their year. I got it.
You love them. Like, why don't you? What, Tony? Seriously, why don't you tell your fans? You always wear a T-shirt with the Leafs logo. Come on.
No,
come on, bud. You got to be honest here.
Don't like the Leafs, but growing up, I hated the Bruins a lot more than I hated the Leafs, and I hated the Nordiques a lot more than I hated the Leafs. And I say that because a lot of Canadiens fans actually hate the Leafs more than any other team in the National Hockey League. Always hated the Bruins and the Nordiques a little bit more than hated the Toronto Maple Leafs. But anyway, let's go back to the phone lines. Where are we going here? We're going to, hello, who's this?
This is James.
James, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Very, very well. Canadiens win a huge game. Talk to me, James.
Tony, this is probably the 3rd or 4th time I call, and no joke, this call is only based on... Can I send you guys some flowers, please? Maxim, Lapierre, t'adore. Écoute, je travaillais au Centre Bell pendant que tu étais dans le Canadien, puis écoute, like, I love you. All right?
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Pierre, I have no other words to say other than you are the hockey guru. You know everything, and you pinpoint every goddamn detail. I'm sorry for the language. I love everything that you say.
Merci beaucoup. Très gentil. Merci beaucoup.
No problem. Tony, this morning at BPM Sports, the stunt that you pulled, April 1st, come on!
I resigned on air, Pierre, only to come back about 35, 40 minutes later.
I can't deal with this, Tony. Please promise me it's the last time you do this.
Yeah, you know what the best part of it was, though? 2-hour show. I took 40 minutes off, and I still got paid for the 2 hours. Appreciate taking the time. Thanks so much.
Thanks, James. Merci.
All right. Back to the phone lines we go, or back to some questions. Phone lines at 1-888-585-SICK, 1-888-585-7425. Hello, Matt.
Hey, guys. What's going on?
Hey, Matt.
We're all good. How are you?
Good. So I kind of just wanted to hear from Maxim and Pierre. Early on in the season, you know, the D zone seemed to be an absolute nightmare, you know, and they seemed lost. It didn't seem good at all. Nobody seemed on the same page. And, you know, they went on that little run and they're playing, a lot better now. What are some of the things that you guys have noticed that have changed in the D zone? Because now they're able to beat some of these top end offensive forechecking teams like Florida, and it just seems like everybody's bought in. But I want to know exactly what Martin and the staff have done exactly to really fix this D zone up.
Well, first of all, it starts with for me, the backtracking is way, the guys are way better, so it doesn't give the other team a chance to set up in offensive zone. They always feel the pressure coming in, but I think they adjust a little bit. We've been talking about it to an hybrid, so they play man on man, but as soon as they have a chance to put to stop a guy and pin him against the wall, then somebody else comes and help him right away. But I think at the beginning of the year they weren't confident that much to play that kind of system. So sometimes there was a gap in between the puck carrier and the guy that was chasing him. But now I feel like they're confident enough to just take that extra step, be right there, and the other team doesn't have as much time anymore.
Maxim is 100% right. It all starts in the neutral zone, closing the gap, picking up the right people, and that allows you to pressure up against the boards from the top of the circle down to the icing line in your end zone coverage, and you eliminate the cycle. But the other part of it is with this team, you can go look it up, and Tony's really good on this stuff. When they got destroyed by the Washington Capitals in Washington, and then they had a real hard practice the next day. It was a Friday practice. Then they went into Pittsburgh, and they didn't play very well. They played better, but they didn't win again.
They lost 3-1. What an empty net goal, I think.
But that team woke up. So that Washington beatdown and the Friday practice when the coach said, no mas, no more, we're going to kick the poop out of you, and they did. Those guys woke up from that, and that's when they started to become harder to plase against.
Yeah, and the Washington loss was on Halloween Thursday, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and you can talk about any defensive system. Bottom line is it's about work. Like if you don't compete and if you don't feel like you're 100% and you don't take this extra step or you don't give the extra hit, then you won't be good in any system. And I feel like at the beginning of the year, some players were just there watching, taking pictures. Now everyone is working.
Yeah.
Back to the phone lines or back to the calls we go. Thank you, Matt, for the phone call. So special thanks to James for calling. Special thanks to Matt for calling. Let's go to Ryan. Hello, Ryan.
Yes, Tony, how are you?
Very good. How are you?
Good, thank you. How's it going, gentlemen?
Well, Ryan. Thanks. It's good to talk to you.
Yes, sir, you too. Listen, huge win tonight. That was absolutely fantastic. The way they were able to come back, show a lot of character there. Obviously, this experience, is good for the young guys. But I'm looking more maybe like next year, kind of. So my question is obviously, I want all your opinions on this. Obviously, we know that the Habs are, they're a little short on second line centers in essence. But this player, I'm thinking in general, from free agency of this year coming, I think most likely he'll probably re-sign with his team. But if the odd chance he doesn't, now you guys, maybe I'm daydreaming and maybe you guys can knock me down and snap me back onto planet Earth. But I think it's a realistic chance that the Habs can maybe go get this guy in the offseason. Now, obviously, I didn't look at all the logistics of things, so I don't know about the cap room and all that, but I'm assuming we might have it. And if he doesn't want to resign, he plays in a big market team, so he's already accustomed to the media. And I think when he played for Team Canada at the Four Nations Cup, he played obviously the Bell Center several times so far in his career. And he relishes the moment. He understood that, he relishes it, and he was happy that the fans, a lot of them were there for Team Canada, but let's be pretty much straightforward, transparent. It's pretty much a lot of Canadians fans that were there as well. And he was proud that they cheered him on instead of booing him. Now, that being said, my question to you is kind of like a two-question part. One, is it a realistic chance? Is Montreal a realistic destination to go get this player? And two, getting him with Demidov coming in next year, hopefully as advertised, and I'm assuming he's going to be as advertised, I think it'll help Newhook develop into that second line center that they need. It'll be able to, develop his speed, that he already has the speed, but it'll be able to unlock him a little bit more offensively, playing with Demidov and maybe Mitch Marner on his other side. I think Mitch Marner is, a player that'll help alleviate a lot of pressure off Suzuki because, I agree with you guys, like you said before today. Suzuki is by far our best offensive forward that we have on the team. It'll be able to alleviate some pressure from Suzuki and Caulfield saying, hey, if we don't put up any points tonight, the chances of winning are pretty low. So, and then at the same time, I think it'll be able to mentor Demidov as well, coming in as a new guy in a big city filled with a bunch of media all over his back. So in essence, my questions are, one, do you think Montreal is a realistic destination to go get him? And two, will Newhook be able to develop into the second line center that we need? And don't forget, if that's the case and we do get him and Line doesn't plan on, Line is not planning on extending after next year, we can always flip them at the deadline with maybe a pick or two because they'll be less relevant than what they are now because getting a guy like that.
Okay.
Hey, dude, you started your question. I was 39. I'm now 40.
Okay, sorry.
You started a question. I was in my 8-hour window of eating, and now I'm in my intermittent fasting of my next 16-hour window. What's going? Are you trying to set the longest question in the Guinness World Book of Records for the longest question ever asked, or what? This is unbelievable.
All right.
Okay, Pierre, thank you, Ryan, for the phone call. Please, I encourage you to call again. Maybe ask 3/4 of your question off air and come on and ask the last quarter on air. But Pierre, do you think Alex Newhook could end up being a second line centerman?
No.
Which is what he was trying to ask. And me neither.
No. No, but also I don't think Mitchell Marner's coming here either.
No. Do you think he's going to re-sign with the Leafs?
I think it depends on what they do in the playoffs, honestly.
Yeah.
I think if they do really well in the playoffs, he might be prepared to give them a little bit less than what market value would be. Because it's going to be pretty – if they ever went to the Stanley Cup final to – I know you don't like Toronto, Tony, but it's an important franchise in the league.
I know that.
I know you do. If they ever get to the Stanley Cup final, it would be hard for any player to want to leave there. Max knows what I'm talking about. Ask him about what it was like in Vancouver when they got to the Stanley Cup final.
Oh, loved it.
Yep.
Yeah.
You think
he's going to resign? You think he's going to resign in Toronto, though?
You know what, Maxie? I think if they get to the final, it's going to be hard for him to leave. Now, that being said, I'm not his agent. I'm not his father. I don't know, but do I think he'd leave? If he left Toronto, he'd go to another Canadian team? I don't think he would.
Oh, I see him go. He's going to be like in Vegas or something like that.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't see. Would he go to a place like Dallas? Maybe. Would he go to a place like Vegas? Maybe. Would he go to a place like Tampa or Florida? Maybe. But I can't see him going to another Canadian team. I'd be surprised.
Yeah. Well, look, I don't remember when was the last time an unrestricted free agent really wanted to sign with the Edmonton Oilers, like an elite unrestricted free agent. But, we know he's got a great relationship with Connor McDavid. That would be great. I don't know how they can fit all these guys in, though.
They could.
Yeah.
They could. They could find a way. They wouldn't have a very deep team, but they could do it.
Yeah. Listen, Toronto is a very important market, but that building doesn't have much ambiance.
No, but I'll tell you one thing. There's a company that just paid, I think, $11 billion for the television rights. Yes. And I guarantee you they're going to be showing Toronto every single freaking day.
Yeah.
Because that's where all the ratings come from.
I hear you.
Right.
Yeah. Do we have Chris? Chris?
Yes.
Do you ask short questions? Do you ask short questions? Or
maximum 18 minutes, okay?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, I don't know. It was a phenomenal game to watch tonight up until the 8.4 seconds. But I'm starting to get worried about Slavkovsky. It's like this guy. He's a slow producer to begin the season, but then he starts heating up later at the end. But I just don't see him worth $7.8 million. So I feel like we can't have that production year after year, and I feel like he just has to step up. And I feel like he just gets mental breakdowns game after game. It's like those small blindsided passes, and he always misses them. And I feel like sometimes I just question myself while watching him. Was he really the right pick at first overall?
Well, he was. Now that we picked Lane Hutson first overall, I guess. So that's basically what happened. But I think it was the right pick, and you got to give him time. Like, obviously, I understand your point, because tonight I was a little, I don't want to say disappointed, but I thought that was the type of game where it could be more physical, like playing the Florida Panthers in a big game like this. But that happens. He's still learning. He's a young player. He's a big guy. He's going to be there for a long time, and I think he's going to be worth his contract.
Just pretend the Canadiens drafted Hutson first and Slavkovsky 62nd. You'll be happier about it.
Yeah. Let's also remember he just turned 21, Chris. I mean, I remember when Guy Lafleur was a 20-year-old first-round pick overall, and the first 2 years in Montreal, people were asked, trade him out of here. Can't play. So think about that. It took a little time. It takes a little time. There are not a lot of Sidney Crosbys out there. It takes a little time.
And seeing Matthew Knies being an RFA, if you're Kent Hughes, are you going to offer sheet him?
That's a good question. Honestly, that's something I don't understand, why people don't offer sheet more. I would personally do it. I don't know. I'm not talking about any player in particular, but I would try it.
Well, St. Louis did it. They did a heck of a job, too, by bringing in Holloway and Broberg. It totally changed the dynamic of their team. So the answer is, if he's available and the Canadiens have more than enough collateral, I don't know why they wouldn't offer sheet him.
How much would you be willing to give him?
I'd have to look. Chris, I don't want to give you a fraudulent answer. I'd have to go and really study some sheets before I could tell you. There are a lot of people that just throw numbers out there. I'm not going to do that. I've negotiated contracts before. There's a lot of research that goes into that, a lot. So I'm just not going to throw a number at you. And it depends what the marketplace will be this summer, too, depending on how many players are available.
Yeah, 100%. But also, Jacob Fowler, we know his season ended, but I think I read somewhere where he might return to Boston College next season.
We'll see on that.
Is that the right choice?
We'll see. That wouldn't hurt him if he went back, but we'll see how that plays out.
Pierre, I understand he probably wants to win a championship with that, but I mean,
they're not going to win next year. I can tell you right now.
Well, no, because they didn't win with all the players that they had that ended up signing, the Gabe Perreaults and the Ryan Leonards of this world. So, what does he have to gain to go back?
The only thing he could do is win a Hobie Baker, but their year to win was not this year; it was last year when Will Smith was there.
Yeah,
you had Will Smith, you had Gabe Perreault, you had Ryan Leonard. Like, you had a murderer's row. Their depth players were unbelievable last year. They were all older guys who were playing in their fifth year. They didn't have that this year. That's part of why they lost to Denver. And I can tell you right now, they lost to Northeastern in their conference tournament. And the reason why is they got pushed around. They got pushed around physically.
Pierre, I heard your opinion on the eye test with Jimmy Murphy about Laval, but for those who are watching right now, didn't have a chance to watch the eye test Monday to Friday, by the way, at 4 p.m. And will you guys be in town on Thursday?
Yeah, Thursday. We're McLean's Public House on Thursday. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. For those who are watching now and didn't have a chance to see, in Pierre McGuire's world, Jacob Fowler, Boston College, Laval Rocket, Montreal Canadiens. What's the next step?
I would say Laval, Boston College, Laval, and then Montreal.
Yeah.
Can I just say this, because Max will remember this?
Yeah.
People forget that Marty Brodeur, when he turned pro, he went to do some stage down in Utica. He played in Utica for the Utica Devils. I watched him play there. People don't even want to talk about that anymore. Like, there used to be a way to get to the National Hockey League. You used to have to go pay your time. Not everybody was Tommy Barrasso as an 18-year-old out of Acton Boxborough High School that ended up being freaking Rookie of the Year in the NHL. And then 2 years later, he gets traded to Pittsburgh because he couldn't stop anything in Buffalo. So I'm just telling you, it wouldn't hurt Jacob Fowler to go down to the American League and play. Wouldn't hurt him.
I don't understand what the rush is, and don't get me wrong here. I'm not a goaltender specialist, but I do know that a goaltender is ready to be a number one in the NHL normally between 25 and 27 years old, if my memory is right. And I played with Carey Price in Hamilton in the minors. We won the cup together, and it's still, we forget it took time for Carey to be like the superstar he was, right? Like, just go back in 2010, Halak was the starter in playoffs. You know, like that was 5 years after he was drafted. So one step at a time. Like, there's no need right now to just take him, put him in net in that situation. One step at a time. There's no rush. I know we're all excited and we want to see like the young guys come in and be the superstar right away. It doesn't work that way at all.
You know what, Max? I want to back you up on this too. Most people won't remember Dan Blackburn. Dan Blackburn was a first-round pick of the New York Rangers. They put him in goal as an 18-year-old on a bad team. You don't even know who Dan Blackburn is anymore.
No.
He got destroyed. You can't do that to kids. You can't.
The Sick Podcast is brought to you in part by Accent Insurance Solutions. You know, all insurance isn't created equal, and you know where to find the right solution for you. Accent Insurance. Accent doesn't sell insurance. They shop insurance for you to find the right product right on the money. Whatever your insurance needs, home, automobile, or business, call 514-363-3636 or visit their website, www.accentassurance.com. Let's take a couple of questions if we're not going to get to a call. Or we have Vito. Do we have Vito on the line? Vito, you there? Vito, you there?
Yes.
Vito, go ahead.
Tony Tone.
Vito.
Hey, do you hear me, Tony?
Yes, we do.
Tony, it's Vito V. You guys, the three of you, you're fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vito.
It's an absolute honor to speak to you all. Pierre, I've been listening to you for many, many years. Max, you grew up here, I guess, in Montreal. You got to play for the Canadiens. I think that's like everybody's dream. So congrats on that.
Thank you.
Guys, if I can, Vito V and I worked in the same building for a long time. He is, of course, with Virgin Radio. I'll tell you that he's one of the best DJs that not only this city, but this country, probably even North America, has produced. He has done several shows with the David Guettas and the Tiestos and all the greats of this world. Wow. And if there's one thing that he's really good at, he gauges energy. And Vito, could you feel the energy in the building tonight?
Listen, man, that's what I was going to ask Max. Is that energy contagious to opposing teams, or is it intimidating? Because I get the feeling that the visiting teams, when they come here and the place is rocking, that they're almost in awe. Like it's like it's almost too much to handle. What is that? Like, does that scare them, or does that does it propel them?
To be honest, I don't think it changes anything for the visiting team. It's just that it takes the home team to another level, and I think you just feel the confidence, you feel the passion. You're tired, you're injured, it doesn't matter. I feel like it takes your game to another level, but I don't want to be disappointing here, but it's like that everywhere in the NHL. You know, like obviously we have the best fans in the NHL here, but go anywhere like Boston, Chicago, like all these teams. Like when the fans are behind the own team, like obviously it has a positive impact. Like, but here it's another level. It's a little louder here in Montreal.
That's amazing. And for you, Pierre, Martin St. Louis, that the team is coming from behind. Is it like, could that success be attributed to him at all, or is it just basically the players banding together?
No, I think he plays a role with it. So do his assistant coaches. It's about messaging. It's about keeping your composure. It's about making sure your guys don't panic late in the game. Vito, you look at Lane Hutson on that last play that tied the game. He's calm, cool, and collected, even though there's pressure on him at the offensive blue line. He gets a puck in deep. Look where Nick Suzuki is. He's not running around like a crazy man. He's stationary, waiting for that opportunity. So I think when the coach is calm, cool, and collected, but intense, he can get the players' attention. And I think the Canadiens have done a good job of that. I didn't like their road trip at all, but I thought the fact that they brought their A effort on Sunday afternoon in Florida, Vito, was huge. And I think that was a really good reflection on the coaches.
Vito, thank you so much for the phone call. Very much appreciated. Guys, we're going to take 3 questions, but before we do, thank you, Vito. Before we do, guys, I'm worried about the fourth line, guys. and I know Heineman wasn't on it tonight, and Pizzetto was there.
No.
Pierre talked about it last show, saying that ever since Jake Evans has signed that new deal, Max, I know you're the president of the Jake Evans fan club as well. Can you begin to, you would know about an energy line, Max. What are you seeing? Like, he's not even winning his big face-offs anymore. Like, he was winning face-offs. He was a great penalty killer. He was scoring some goals. We all knew that he probably couldn't have kept up the production. But how concerned are you about from what you're seeing on the fourth line, Max? Because that identity was there before, and I don't see anything now.
Yeah, I'm not concerned. Like, I think every 10 games it changes who takes control of the situation, right? Obviously, a first line is a first line, but right now the fourth line maybe is not as confident as they were at the beginning of the season. And let's be clear, first of all, it has nothing to do with their contract, like zero. All right, like he's a guy that always works hard and all that, but it's a matter of time. He's gonna get his confidence back. He's gonna play well. I know it's obvious that Armia is hurt, right? Like he's not contributing as much. We're changing a little bit now the lines because of Pizzetta and injuries, so it's gonna come back to normal. I'm not. If we go in the playoffs tomorrow, I guarantee you this line is gonna be good.
I agree, Max. I want to ask you one thing because you're a natural center iceman. The one thing I would like to see him try to do, because I think he's become really predictable as a right-hand shot in the circle, I'd like to see him try to take sticks and use his feet more and get support from the wings. He's way too predictable right now, and that's one of the reasons why I think he's getting beat.
Yeah, the only thing with the stick thing, and you're right, but it's tough to do. Obviously, it doesn't seem that way, but I would say it's an art, like to do it. Some guys are really good at it, and you're probably right now he's probably working with Marc Bureau too, and working on different things, and sometimes that can help you, but it can also confuse you a little bit because you're trying different things, So, but like you said, like it's good to mix it up a little bit and change it, but at the same time, you don't want to change it if it was working for so many years, right?
So, Tony, can I tell a quick story? Because Mark Bureau's involved in it.
Please do.
So, in game one of the 1991 Stanley Cup Final, Max, I know you were 20 years old then. We played the Minnesota North Stars, and Mark Bureau was one of their top centermen. It was Bobby Smith, it was Neil Broughton, it was Mark Bureau, and it was Dave Gagne. And they wiped us out in the first game, and we lost game one at home in the final. So Bob Johnson said to me, the late Bob Johnson, make a tape of every face-off in the game. I think there were 82 face-offs in the game. So I made the tape, and he says, tomorrow morning, bring all the centermen in and chair a meeting. So our centermen were Mario Lemieux, Ronnie Francis, Brian Trottier, Randy Gillen, Yuri Herdina. So all those guys came into the meeting, and we created a face-off protocol. And Ronnie Francis basically took over the meeting with Brian Trottier. We never got dominated again in face-offs. And I think it's something you can really work on as a staff and as players. And that's why I brought that up about Jake, because I think it's important for you to mix it up.
1991 Stanley Cup Final, Minnesota North Stars versus Pierre McGuire's Pittsburgh Penguins. You were just talking about right there. Correct me if I'm wrong, Pierre, but after game 3, it was 2-1 for Minnesota. And Mario Lemieux doesn't play game 4. And the Pittsburgh Penguins win. And then Mario comes back, and he puts it in 5th gear. And Minnesota didn't touch the puck for the next couple of games, with game 6 finishing by a score of 8-0 for Pittsburgh.
That is correct. Ulfie Samuelsson got the first goal in game 6, and Jimmy Pack got the 8th goal.
So perfect. So now ask me how I remember that, Pierre.
Because you were probably watching it.
I don't. Mark Bureau told me last week. I saw him at an arena in Sorel.
But Mark would tell you, they killed us in game 1 in faceoffs. It wasn't even close. Like, we got wiped out. And Bob was so upset. He said, Pierre, make that tape right now. We didn't have computers back then. So we had 2 VCRs, and I'm doing it by hand. It wasn't that easy.
Yeah. So I went to watch a North American Hockey League game a couple of weeks ago, and Max is here. Max, by the way, along with Guillaume Latendresse, are owners of Le Bataillon de Saint-Hyacinthe, who, by the way, in their rookie campaign, made the playoffs, but lost in 6 games to Laval, if I'm not mistaken, right, Max? And
House of Pain.
And House of Pain, correct. And if I'm not mistaken, anyway, so long story short, I was in Sorel a couple of weeks ago to watch Jonquière versus Sorel, and Marc Bureau's son is the goalie for Jonquière.
Wow.
And I went over to say hello to Mark, and he talked to me about that Pittsburgh series versus Minnesota. I don't remember how it came up, but Mark's a great dad. He wanted to be there to watch his son play. And in this North American Hockey League, there's a lot of players. These teams don't even have a bus, Pierre. So a lot of them carpool. Yeah. And Mark said, my son's in goal, and he wastes a lot of. There's a lot of energy consumed during the game, and he says, so I come to the games because it's a long ride back to Jonquière, and I don't want him falling asleep on the wheel. He's a hardworking man, and he says he works really hard, and he says, so I drive him back to Jonquière. So I think
That's
Mark,
a great story.
I think Mark lives in Three Rivers, so he brought him back to his place or in Three Rivers, or they both live in Three Rivers, I think. But then he drove him the next morning to Jonquière so that his son could relax the whole ride home, and he can get ready, or the ride back to the home rink, so that he can get ready for the next game. So anyway, we got 4 questions that we're gonna throw out there. 4 questions. Let's go. Justin Walls sent over $13.99. Isn't that nice? A few years back, when the Memorial Cup was in St. John, I ran into Gerard Gallant at a concert, and I asked him who he would take at number 1. Shane Wright? He laughed and said, the Slovak kid. All right. Thank you, Justin.
No, he's right.
He's right.
You don't just find players that are that big physically, that strong, and with that skill package. Just give him time. I'll repeat it again. 2-3 years, you're going to see the real Slav.
I was in Turku a lot that year. I watched Slavkovsky play as a 3rd and 4th line player for Turku, Saku Koivu's team. And he was maybe getting 8 to 12 minutes a game, max, not even that much. He goes to the Olympics that year, and he's the MVP. So, I mean, because he got a chance to play for Slovakia. He's gonna be real good, and I agree with Max on this 100%. You give him a couple more years, you watch how good this guy's gonna be.
All right, next question. Lord Stanley sends over $5. Pierre said NHL is a game of tandems. Could Liney and Demidov be a tandem with Newhook at 2C till trade deadline? Can a tandem be 2 wingers?
No, you need a center. You need a centerman and a winger. So that's tough to have 2 wingers be a tandem. There are not a lot of playmaking wingers out there. You got to have a centerman that can make plays.
1 more. Or actually 2 more. Gregory Debu sends over $5. Big win tonight, but down a goal in the 3rd, and we generate 4 shots on net. I think St. Louis needs to switch things up when we are trailing.
Can I answer that quickly?
Sure.
You're playing against the defending Stanley Cup champs, and Max Lapierre will appreciate this because he's had to do it in his career. Watch what they do in the neutral zone. They make it almost impossible for you to get any kind of flow. Talking about Florida, that's why the shot total is so low. Really, really difficult to get through the neutral zone.
Yeah, let's just focus on the win. That's a big win for me. Sometimes you want a perfect game, but it ain't perfect all the time. What I like tonight is we showed that this team will stop playing at the buzzer. And Pierre was right, and Tony as well. You were talking about the play from Lane Hutson at the end with 8 seconds left. Most of the players, they would just put the puck back down and just hope. He wasn't hoping. He was still looking to make a play.
Agreed.
Guys, I think we got a video here. Let me see. Max Lapierre, take a look at this. Huh?
Wow.
Do we
That's
have
not me. It's my name, but it's not me.
We don't have the video, no, but we have a picture there. Ryan McGuire.
Big goal.
Playing in his first game, Pierre, in the East Coast Hockey League for the Iowa Heartlanders.
Game, yeah. Minnesota's organization. Yeah.
Scores a goal.
Yeah.
With Pierre McGuire in attendance, I would imagine.
No, I was watching on TV in Mont-Tremblant, Quebec.
Oh, wow.
I was here.
That's a big one.
That was it's good.
Yeah.
Where is he now? What
Iowa, Minnesota's organization. Yeah, it's a big goal.
Cool. Proud moment up here.
Yeah, it was good. It was really neat to see. I was sitting downstairs where I work, and my wife was upstairs, and yeah, it was different. She didn't want to be around me.
Awesome stuff, Pierre. Congratulations to Ryan, you, your wife, your entire family. I know it must be an amazing feeling. All right, guys. Once again, Pierre will be back on Thursday night. The Canadiens will host the Boston Bruins. The Canadiens went into tonight's game in the second wildcard spot. They leave tonight's game, of course, in the second wildcard spot. And the good news is that every team that they're competing against, with the exception of the New York Rangers, has actually played a game. So it's one game less for everyone. 8 games left in the Montreal Canadiens season. We had huge numbers tonight. We have the updated standings. Here we are. The Ottawa Senators with 84. They're 5 points up on the Canadiens. Canadiens have 2 points more than Columbus, who have a game in hand. But the Canadiens have more wins in regulation than Columbus. The Rangers have 2 points less than Montreal. They've played the same amount of games. The Detroit Red Wings have 4 points less. They've played the same amount of games. The New York Islanders have 5 points less. They've played the same amount of games. The Canadiens are in a good spot. Is it tight? Yes, it is. And now, you know what? The biggest game of the year that was tonight, and the one before tonight was the biggest game of the year, and the one before that was the biggest game of the year, and the one before that was the biggest game of the year. The Canadiens will play their next biggest game of the year in a couple of nights from now when they host the Boston Bruins Thursday night at the Bell Center. Max Lapierre, La Poche Bleue, Blanc, Rouge on Montreal Canadiens game nights immediately following the hockey game, and Wednesdays when the Canadiens do not play, La Poche Bleue. This will go tomorrow night at 8 p.m. on all social media platforms. Max, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Pierre McGuire,
see you,
thank
Pierre.
you very much.
Bye, Maxie.
And to everyone watching, special thanks to all of our sponsors, and to everyone watching. Something special is happening with the Montreal Canadiens. Nick Suzuki picks up 2 goals, including the game winner in overtime. And Lane Hutson has set a franchise record for the Montreal Canadiens in their history for all rookie defensemen with the most assists in a season. Unbelievable. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple. It's our way of feeling the love for Salmon and Yellow at Salmon Control. For Salmon and Yellow at Master Control. I'm Marinaro. I'll be back tomorrow night with Craig Button. Ciao for now.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. Lapierre.tb, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.